you're the best wife in the world. Little words of affirmation where you just make them feel really nice about themselves. Remember, flattery. When he says that flattery, it's not flattery. You being sincere. It's not you being sincere. But as far as when it comes in the hadith, where people shouldn't praise each other. Man humida zubiha bighayri sikkin. That whoever has been praised, it is as though that he's been slaughtered without a knife. That's for outside people. But when it comes to a husband and wife, there's no boundaries. There is no boundaries. Coming onto actually, I've got sexual gratification there anyway, so we can talk a bit about that anyway. So words of affirmation. Number 2 is quality time. Your quality time is giving your spouse the undivided quality time. Not only you're playing on your phone. You're playing on your phone and you're checking your YouTube or you're checking your Facebook or your Twitter, and your wife is speaking and you say yes, 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 yes. You are talking to her, you are in a company, or not when you're actually sitting down watching a movie or you're reading a book and she's talking or he's talking, and that's there, you are spending time together, but it's not undivided time. So what you do is basically you discuss things, and you sit down and say, how was his day, how did you do, what would you like to do in the weekend. But undivided quality time, okay? Some people, they like receiving gifts, even if it's a little chocolate bar, might be a big bouquet, a Valentine's time. But some people, they like being loved when their husband or their spouse, they give them a lot of gifts. A lot of people, they like it when the spouse does something for them, so when they help them. It's not because, let's say, if you're taking the bin out, right, and you're taking the bin out and you've got a face on, right? Why do I have to always do it for you? Grudgingly. That doesn't mean anything, you see, because that's like you're not doing it. You might as well not do it, but you do it out of love. You see your wife doing it, okay? You see your wife doing it, and you say, okay, out of love, you come and you help her. So, honey, I'll do it. This guy, he's a Maulvi, and his father was a Jamaati. This is a real story. It's not made up. He's telling us this. His father was a proper Tablighi person. So every time his father used to go to his brother's house, he used to complain, and he used to say, "What's wrong with this woman? She doesn't even give us some tea. She doesn't give us tea, And she was always nagging. She's always giving us tea late, So one day, this Maulvi, he said, "Well, father, Islam. I mean, you should know. You're a big time Tablighi, and I'm your son. I'm telling you that Islam says that she doesn't even need to do these things for her husband. And what that means is we can talk about that. Okay, sisters, don't leave at this point because we need to discuss this more. She doesn't even need to do this for her husband. Who the hell are you? You're a father-in-law." And the father took his glasses off and he thought for a while, and then he looked up and said, "If this is your Islam, then to hell with your Islam." See, so people they kind of pick and choose. When you actually do an act of service, then you do it because you do it out of love and not because, if I don't do it, she's going to do my head in, or if I don't do it, he's going to do my head in. You do it out of love for the other person, you'll see that it makes a difference. And then other people, they're like, the way that they want to be loved is by physical touch. Now, physical touch doesn't necessarily always have to be sex. Somebody you just a handshake or a pat on the shoulder, or just touching the hair and things like that. If you actually do that assessment, and it's going to give you 2 types of answer, 2 types of possibilities, and maybe both of them fits onto your kind of situation, but you need to answer choose the one which is really, really, really sorts out which you really want, and you'll see that it will give you a psychological profiling of yourself. Again, not to use it as a textbook. You can have more than one love language. Somebody got all of them, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts. He wants everything. Okay. My main one is acts of service. My wife's is quality time. So, yeah. Any questions with that? Okay, let's look at some conflict resolution. Okay, because as marriage goes on, we have a lot of problems. Okay. conflict even the Prophet ﷺ and his wives used to have conflicts. One time, the Prophet ﷺ nearly divorced all of his wife. Say that Aisha used to get really, really angry, and once she said, "أَإِنَّكَ تَزْعَمُ أَنَّكَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ or أَإِنَّكَ تَزْعَمُ أَنَّكَ نَبِيَّ اللَّهِ." Yeah, right. You claim to be the Prophet of Allah. Yeah, right. Is that kind of attitude? And the Prophet ﷺ says to Sayyidah Aisha that I know when you're angry with me, and Sayyidah Aisha says how? So she says that when you are not angry with me, you say wa Rabbi Muhammad. When you say something, you say I swear by the Lord of Muhammad. And when you're actually angry with me, you don't say my name, you say wa Rabbi Ibrahim, and I swear by the Lord of Ibrahim. And Sayyidah Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, wa hal tarakta illa ismak? That the only thing that I've left, Ya Rasulullah, is your name, but the love is still in the heart. So Sunnah used to happen. There's two incidents, the two lessons that we learn from here. Number one is names. Can you take your husband by their name? That's something which is culturally no, religiously yes, because we have it here. We say that Aisha used to say wa Rabbi Muhammad, but obviously you have to take the culture into consideration, and you don't do it in front of the elders, or the elders, especially the sisters, or the elders will judge you really badly. Say this woman, she's lost it. Okay. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Khayrukum li nisa'ihi wa ana khayrukum li nisa'i." That the best amongst you is the one that is best towards his wives, and I am the best towards my wife. So conflict resolution, first of all, with one another, is falling in love with love. The metaphor of the field. Normally people they just fall in love with love. Okay, so you have to understand that it's not an abstract thing that you can just fall in love with love. It's not a fairy tale world. Life, you have to understand it's not a fairy tale world, and you have to work for it. The way that I put the metaphor of the field, where you need to actually do something to that field in order to get good yields, good crops. So you need to actively try to work in your marriage. And when you say working, I'm working on my marriage, that does, that what connotation does that have? That my marriage is falling apart, and I'm working on it. That's the connotation he has, right? My marriage is falling apart, and I'm working on it. No, it shouldn't be like that. That when your marriage falls apart, you work on it. It shouldn't be like that. Constantly from the first day, both of you should work on your marriage, because it's a hard work. Marriage is hard work, and you need to really, really work on it and find each other's, come to an understanding, because two people they will have two different upbringings, and two different you have compatibility issues, but the best way is kind of finding your way around that. Okay, so number one is commitment. You need to be committed with each other, So it's not that every single time you have a problem, the husband says, "I'm going to divorce you and want to get married to another woman." It's always, they say that the grass is always green on the other side, but the grass is not always green on the other side. The problems that your wife has, or you have with your wife, what are the chances that you won't have that problem with somebody else? You might divorce your wife, but you'll probably end up with a bigger mess. You see, the grass is not always green on the other side. So you have to you made that commitment. You took that oath. You took that, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَأَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامِ. You did that qabul. You committed to each other that whatever happens, you will fight this through as husband and wife. You need to have that. First of all, you need to have that commitment, and then you need to be a good listener. My wife says, "You've never, you don't listen to me." Sorry, did you say something? Right? You need to be a good listener, okay? Because if you're not a good listener and you're always yapping on, sometimes, the spouse, they need to offload, and if they're not finding the comfort in you, they'll go to somebody else. So you need to sit down, even if you need to offload on somebody else afterwards. Oh, my wife's doing my head in, she's always nagging on about mother-in-law and this and that. But sometimes you have to understand that, especially when we've got a whole section on mother-in-law. Sometimes you have to understand that she's not complaining to you about your mom, that your mom's done this or your mom's done that or that. All she's doing is she's offloading, and she doesn't want you to further go and do anything about it. Okay, so be a good listener, respect for each other and each other's feelings. So just because somebody, you've got she's come up with some kind of idea and say, that's really going to work, that's really stupid. No, you should respect the way that you will respect a person coming from outside. Remember, your wife is your best friend, your wife is your mate. your husband is your best friend. You won't treat your best friend like that. You won't treat